Hey folks, C.W. Johnson Jr. here, and it is March 4th, 2018. And March 4th always sounds like something that a general would say. March 4th. So anyway, this is an update on what's been going on. Saw the doctor again last week. There wasn't enough fluid around my spleen that they saw there. There wasn't enough for them to decide what was going on. All my tests checked out all right. Just a benign cyst on my kidneys, that's all. They really aren't sure what's going on. They think it might be due to the fact that I don't get enough sleep and stressed out, anxiety. So they have me on something to help with that. I might get a second opinion, but we'll see. I'm not really sure how I feel about taking stuff for anxiety. Makes me kind of anxious, especially when the side effects are panic attacks, because then I start panicking about getting panic attacks. It's like the doctor thinks gives you something for mental illness. It's like, I'm not sure how that feels. I'm not mentally ill, by the way. I'm perfectly normal. I just like to read a lot, and I'm artistic, and I like to write, and I like to act. So, yeah, I'm okay. So this is what I've been reading, and on the past week, I also watched the 1517 to Paris. It dragged a little on a few parts, but it was very good. It was entertaining. I guess the part where it dragged was when they were touring Paris, and I guess Mr. Eastwood, in his realistic style he likes to do, he was probably just trying to show how they're this regular tourist. They're on a normal tourist trip, and it's like you regular people, and the next minute you know they're heroes. Well, here's some of the stuff I've been reading. A Battle from the Start, The Life of Nathaniel Bedford Forrest by Brian Steele Willis from HarperCollins Publishers. Very controversial and very interesting, and man, his life would make a very exciting and very thought-provoking screenplay. So I hope to write a screenplay about him someday, because he's a very fascinating character. Flawed, but fascinating. I finished Hope in Hugnum, a story of the Korean War by David Watts Jr. from David Watts. It was pretty well written. There was a part where it dragged a little, because it had two stories. One about the ship, the Meredith Victory, and one about the fictional character who falls in love with a North Korean girl, or a Korean girl but North Korea. And so it sort of dragged, focused a lot on one story line at one point, and then focused a lot on the other story line at the other part, and made you kind of wonder what happened to the other characters. But it's a great book. You could probably read it in the evening or on a summer vacation. I think it would make a good movie. So definitely Hope in Hugnum should be a movie. I don't remember if I finished talking about this one or not. The Admiral the Amazon, John Randolph Tucker and his Confederate colleagues in Peru, David P. Warwick from Publishing. As far as mother, right there it says, far mom, from my mother. From the University of West Virginia, and very interesting story. It's kind of a hard read because there's a lot of detailed information. You could possibly do a Last Samurai type story based on John Randolph Tucker, but have a fictional character who shows up there early in the Spanish-Peruvian War, and he can introduce Americans to the history of Peru. So, if you're looking for a good book about Peru, take this one out. I've been writing some of my own books. I'm not going to show you any of that because it's not copyrighted. I don't want anyone stealing my ideas. So that's why I've been reading Novels and Short Story Writers Market 2018, trying to figure out which contest I should enter into and which journals and magazines I should submit my short stories to. Sergeant Reckless, excuse me, America's Warhorse by Robin Hutton from Bookmark. And words, I'd like to do my words of the day on my Twitter in some time. Anyway, she wasn't a horse, she was a Marine from Regency History. Very fascinating book. It spends a lot more time on her post-war years than the other book about Sergeant Reckless, Reckless by Tom Clavin. So I finished listening to this one, and I finished reading this one book about this incredible horse and the incredible men she served with in the Korean War. And all I can say is, Hollywood, make a movie about Sergeant Reckless in the Battle for the Nevada Hills. Make a movie about Reckless and the Battle for the Nevada Hills. Make a movie about Sergeant Reckless and the Battle for the Nevada Hills. That's all I gotta say. In fact, she had a screenplay. This was actually her second option, her plan B. She wrote Robin wrote a screenplay about Sergeant Reckless, but it came out at the time that Steven Spielberg's War Horse came out, and nobody wanted to touch the War Horse story because you can't outdo Steven Spielberg. So it's high time that they make a movie about Sergeant Reckless and maybe get Steven Spielberg to direct it. It would be a great way to honor our Korean War veterans who so many people have seemingly forgot. And it's another one I finished reading. I actually started last year and didn't get to finish it because, library limits on how long you have your books out. And even though I like supporting our public works, sometimes library fines can get out of my budget. The Senator and the Socialite. The True Story of America's First Black Dynasty by Lawrence Otis Graham from HarperCollins Publishing. This is actually a fascinating story. It covers American history from about the 1840s well into the 1960s, and it would make a very good miniseries. Our TV show sort of a Downton Abbey, African-American Downton Abbey. Some very fascinating characters, flawed characters, but very fascinating characters. A lot of high society scandal and intrigue and all that great stuff in it. But it's a very good book about how these people were able to overcome so many obstacles and still be successful. Another book about overcoming obstacles and still being successful is, sorry for the A.J. Abrams flares there, Escaping Vietnam by Trina Chow. A Refuge Tale. Who's it published by? Well, that's the Shreveport Memorial Library. Oh, it's self-published. Fascinating book. Very exciting book about how about the sacrifices that people make so their children can live in freedom. And it's a sad story, but it's also a very inspiring story about the things that people do to have freedom for their descendants. And I believe that the boat people from Vietnam should be honored with a film, and there's some pictures in it that her children drew. So, and she's from the Shreveport area. So this is a book you can pick up next time you're at the library to learn about this amazing story of the Vietnam boat people and their quest for freedom. So, high tide in the Korean War. I was hoping to do a video about this one soon. How an outnumbered American regiment defeated the Chinese at the Battle of chipyong-ni by Leo Barron from, where's the publishing company? I'm really Stock Ho Books. Yeah, I really need to get the publishing companies down before I do these videos. But this is High Tide in the Korean War, which I also read in conjunction with Leadership in the Crucible, North Korean War, Battles of Twin Tunnels and Chipyong-ni by Kenneth A. Hamburg from Texas A&M University Press, College Station. It's also about this fascinating battle that was basically the Gettysburg of the Korean War that turned back the North Korean and Chinese assault into South Korea. And these two books would make a very fascinating movie about this battle because there's a lot of very climatic scenes in the battle where hope and rescue came just in the nick of time. So those are some good books they should definitely make some movies out of. See my notes here. Yeah. It's definitely make some movies about the Battle of Chipyong-ni to honor our Korean War veterans. So the number one I've been reading is Forgotten Confederates, an anthology about Black Confederates by compiled and edited by Charles Kelly Barrow and J.H. Cigars and R.R. Rosenberg. This is Journal of the Confederate History Series. It's so the Confederate government officially did not allow African Americans to join the Confederate Army until 1865, but there are a lot of guys who served ad hoc on the front lines. They knew local people. They were friends or servants or slaves of the Confederate soldiers, and they would be allowed to fight because they are trusted. So while there weren't tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Confederate soldiers who were African American, there are African American soldiers in the Confederate Army and who actually picked up guns and fought. So they're not a myth, they're real. There weren't hundreds of thousands of them, but they need to be remembered. Another man who needs to be remembered is Up From History, The Life of Booker T. Washington by Robert J. Norrell. So this is a very fascinating book about a fascinating man who I've talked about in my That Should Be a Movie video about the guest of honor, about the time that Theodore Roosevelt invited him to the White House and it sparked the outrage. So, Booker T has gotten a lot of heat over the years, both from white people and black people. People think he should have been more stronger in standing up for civil rights, but the fact is, he lived in a very difficult time, and he did what he could, and what the situation called for. He was trying to keep peace, be a moderator, and he actually did a lot of behind-the-scenes things, like he did go to court over a sharecropping law that was basically slavery, and I wish the book could have delved more into that, but again, it's all about his life. It would make a great movie or miniseries. So, I'm still working on The Darkest Summer, Pusan and Incheon 1950, the battles that saved South Korea, and the Marines from extinction by appeal, so on. It's make it a very fascinating movie, good movie. So that's what I've been reading, some stuff I've watched, East Side Kids. I watched a lot. I watched Get Out last night, which was kind of creepy. So that's some of the stuff I've been watching. Been listening to Stars of Reckless, been listening to soundtracks to Jackie, Pirates of the Caribbean, what's the other one? Jane Eyre, Lion, I've been listening to that. Cold Mountain, I like the folk music on that. So that's some of the stuff I've been watching. I watched the documentary about Moi, who was a man in Kenya who became a millionaire even though he was born out in the bush, and then he used all of his millions to help the street kids in the slums in Nairobi, Kenya. So that was a very inspiring movie. I've watched a lot, can't really think of everything I've seen so far. East Side Kids, Super Bowl, Go Eagles. I was actually cheering for them. So that's some of the stuff I've been watching, and if you want to see what else I've been watching, follow me on Instagram at CWJohnsonJr87. So that's what I've been reading, watching, and I hope to get some more books up, more episodes of That's a Movie up soon, and I'll see y'all all later. Y'all have a great week. God bless.